Hello and welcome to my channel Making Crafts. Today I am participating in the Home Decor Christmas Collab, and I'll have link below to all the others that are participating. And I am making a found objects canvas. So here are some of the basic supplies. So for this you're going to need a canvas. I'm using an 8x10 and this just comes from the Dollar Tree. I'm also using some of my ink pads that I have and my inking tool. And I'm using the simple, for my paper pieces that's going into this one, I'm using the Simple Stories, and it is the Simple Vintage Rustic Christmas bits and pieces. And then I'm also using some tissue paper, and this may have even come from the Dollar Tree as well. And then I'm using some Mod Podge. So for the found objects, you'll just have to dig through your stash, see what buttons and keys and bits and pieces that you have, the jewels that you have, anything that you have that you think will work good on the canvas. That's all you need to find. It's just bits and pieces around your craft room. We all have these leftover charms and different things that we use in our junk journals and our different craft projects, and so that's what we're going to add to the canvas today. So to get started on today's project, you will just need some Mod Podge and some tissue paper, and I've just taken the tissue paper and I've just balled it up. I just scrunched it up really tight and then balled it up like this. And then I'm just going to open it back up, smooth it out, but I don't want it totally smooth. I want these crinkles in it. I want the texture for this canvas. And so we're going to add the tissue paper to the canvas first. Now my canvas does look a little dingy, but it is because I have tried some other techniques on this canvas, and I decided that I really didn't like those. They weren't giving the effect that I wanted. So I'm just going to cover it up with some tissue paper. And you'll see on the back when I flip it over that I had tried some little different staining and painting techniques just to see if I could stain the canvas to the color I wanted. But I realized I wouldn't have the texture. So I'm just going to add a generous amount of Mod Podge to my canvas, and then I will just press the tissue paper onto the canvas. And like I said, I'm flattening it out, but I want those wrinkles in it and the little crinkles because I want some of that texture. So when I come back later, we will highlight some of that texture. And so I just smooth it onto the front first, and then I'm going to take and add some of my Mod Podge. And this is an old bottle of Mod Podge, so when you go looking for Mod Podge, the bottle may look different. I've had my bottle for years, but it doesn't seem to go bad. I just shake it really good before I use it, and it hasn't seemed to go bad. So it may actually have a different color label now. I'm not really sure. But then I just take the Mod Podge and I am just going to smooth it onto the sides and onto the back. And you're going to see a lot of wrinkles, a lot of texture, but I want that. So I don't want it to be smooth. I want to have all this texture and all the crinkles and wrinkles in it. And so once I start getting it glued down good, I do tear some of the tissue paper off so it's easier to work with. And then I just glue it down and just paint right back over the tissue paper with the Mod Podge. And this is just getting the canvas ready for our Christmas tree. And you can cut this, or you can do like I'm doing and you can tear it. It's either way. It doesn't really make a difference. And then for the corners, I am just pleating them, and then I am just gluing them down. This is a super simple project and it's a lot of fun. I think that you could probably do this with older children. You would just have to be careful, since the found objects are small. You would not want to do this with smaller children because of putting it in their mouths. But I think this is a really fun project. You could do all kinds of shapes, but today I'm going to be doing a found object Christmas tree. So then I'm just going to go back over my entire canvas, just painting the Mod Podge onto the tissue paper. And once I have it coated really well, I will let it set aside to dry. And it took a good little while to dry. I didn't time it because I was working on some other projects during that time. So I'm not sure. It didn't take all day. It maybe took an hour or so to dry. And I guess it will depend on the weather where you're at and the temperature. So once your canvas is dry, and you want to make sure it's totally dry, not sticky, but completely dry, then you're just going to get out your ink pads, and I'm using Distress Oxide, the Ground Espresso, and then I think I'm using the Stampin' Up chocolate chip. It's either the soft suede or chocolate chip. I always just use those two. And so then I'm just taking my sponge and I'm just taking and rubbing it over the tissue paper, and then you can start seeing all those crinkles and wrinkles show up. And I'm using the lighter of the two inks first so that I can just get a light background for my Christmas tree. And I just wanted to have a kind of an aged vintagey look, and so I didn't like it stark white, so that's why I'm adding some of this ink. And as you can see, it's good and dry. If it wasn't dry, you may tear your tissue paper off, and you probably would get some glue and stuff onto your sponge and ruin it. So you do want to make sure it's totally dry before you do this. So you just have to work with it and get the look that you want. And I just keep working until I get all the crinkles and things showing the way I want. And then I do go around the edge and make it a little darker. So I go light in the middle and then dark around the edges. And I think the dark around the edges frames it out. So then I'm going to come back with my darker ink, the Ground Espresso, and I am just going to work around the corners and around the edges, just adding a little shadow, just highlighting the edges and kind of framing out the whole piece. So this is just going to be your own preference as to how much ink you want to add. You can add more than I did or less, and so you can see the texture there. I really wanted that texture of the tissue paper, and so I am going back and just rubbing it lightly around the edges. And my edges do have a lot of wrinkles, but I was good with that. I didn't want any of this to be smooth. So once you have the ink like you like it and have all the shadows done and you have the texture showing that you want, it's time to start adding our bits and pieces. And so I am going to be using the bits and pieces from Simple Stories, A Vintage Christmas, and I will link to where I got those. And then I'm also using found objects. So the paper pieces are from Simple Stories, the Vintage Christmas collection, and then I am using doilies and keys and buttons and different little things. And this is a little die cut snowflake that I cut out, and I'm just using different bits and pieces to create my Christmas tree. So what you want to do first is you just want to dry fit it all. You want to lay out all your pieces to be certain that you have everything like you like it, and then you can go back and glue it down. But for now, I'm just laying out all my bits and pieces. And so I don't have links for the doilies and buttons, but I do have a link for the paper pieces, that Mary and the ticket and the Happy Holidays piece and the star on top. All of that came from the Simple Stories kit. And so what I'm trying to do when I arrange these is I'm trying to make sure that each side sticks out about the same on the canvas on the right and the left. And I'm just using bits and pieces to make that distance, just to kind of make a little triangle like a Christmas tree. And then once I have it all laid out, then I'll go back and just fill in with other small bits like little buttons or little jewels or whatever to fill in the whole tree. So once I had all the pieces laid out, then I took a look and decided that I would go ahead and ink some of the paper pieces. So once I had those inked, the ones that I wanted to ink, I went and started using my hot glue. Pieces that had layers, like where I added the buttons to them, I'm just taking the hot glue and adding those pieces first. And then I'm going to go back and just hot glue down most of my pieces to the canvas. And then the little pieces like Mary and Cheer and some of the snowflakes and things, I do go in and use my art glitter glue because the hot glue is just a little bit too hot to hold those little pieces. So if you don't want to use the hot glue because it is so hot, the art glitter glue will work just fine as well. And you could even add some foam tape behind to get your dimension, but the hot glue seemed to give it a little bit of dimension. Once I had everything glued on, then I'm just sprinkling some glitter in, and this is just the way I did it. And I'm sure there's other techniques and ways to do it, but I was just enjoying myself and having fun creating this canvas. So what I did was I sprinkle the glitter down, and then I'm just adding little dots of art glitter glue, and then I'm just sticking the little pieces of glitter into it. But you could use dimensional, like the little pearls, the liquid pearls, or any other dimensional things, and just squirt them on there, or just dab them on there instead of gluing on the glitter. But I really like the glitter glued on, and so I did go back and add a few pieces of red glitter as well. So this green and red glitter, and I felt that filled in the empty spaces and really made the tree pop. And so that's it. That's a really quick, simple project that you can create in just really a few minutes. It takes a few minutes to glue your tissue paper on, then you wait an hour or so, be working on something else, let it dry, and then come back and just add this. So about 30 minutes you could have a little canvas. And so this is my project for the Christmas collab, and be sure to check all the links below to where I got the simple stories, bits and pieces. Now the keys and the buttons and things I just had found around my house, and also I will link below to the other ladies or other YouTubers that are in the Christmas collab, and be sure to hop on over to their videos and check out the projects they're making today as well. Well, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.